actually favors them and not the other party. So we've been having different issues, and we've been trying to make sense of this, even though it's still kind of complicated. But I've been speaking with Malaki Ogumadu, who is a constitutional lawyer. Thank you so much for trying to help us understand or navigate these murky waters coming out from Kano State. But you said that the traditional institution is not captured in the Constitution. Am I correct?
Yes.
Right. So the fact that it's not captured in the Constitution, you're also asking, or you're calling for a respect of the traditional institution because of the historical antecedents.
Yes.
But then if you look at it, we have good traditional rulers, just like we have good politicians, in elective offices. We have good politicians. I mean, we also have good rulers. And we have despotic, rulers in the traditional institution who are not living up to expectations of their subjects. So if they are not subservient to the local council or to the constituted authority, how do we handle them?
So let's put it this way. The point I make is a bit polemic, but I think I have very firm grounds for making those proposals. I insist that, this is with all modesty, that what legitimizes the traditional stool is not the staff of office or the letter of appointment. It is the acceptability and the recognition of that stool by the indigenous people of the community from where he has emerged.
Because it reflects who they are.
Yes.
And the ruler is supposed to be the custodian.
Not just, he is the repository.
Right.
Of course, the custodian. And believed to be next to the gods that give life to that. Go and read the history and the foundational basis of the Yoruba culture and the Ooni of Ife, and see
that is where it clashes. They have their own system.
So I make the point that what could be very productive and creative in our circumstance is to find a way of deepening that, because it's a cultural, traditional thing. It is not supposed to be
all commerce affairs.
Yeah, all commerce affairs, and exposed and vulnerable to the exigencies of politics. Because that is what is happening now. A Ganduje, okay, let's even leave the Ganduje Sule intervention. Take a look at what is happening now. Part of the excuse they give for ordering the evacuation or eviction is because there's need to renovate. If you juxtapose that with the River State situation, that was not a traditional institution, whatever. But it came to the point where the demolition of the State House of Assembly also became the only way out. In fact, the point I'm making is that give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to, how do they put it, and to God what belongs to God. The traditional institution ought to be sustainable by reason of the consciousness of the people that enthrone it. By the time the control and manipulation and influence on this traditional stool extraneously comes from any other source other than the people, you have demystified that place and demobilized that institution. And it will no longer be relevant to the original idea and purpose of that.
Let's put Kano into the context of your,
analysis.
The reason why, or one of the reasons given by the former governor of Kano State, Abdullahi Ganduje, was that Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, or Sanusi Lamido II, was to him very brash when it comes to criticizing his government. He was upfront when it comes to talking about or giving his own opinion as regards the way he was running his own government. And he didn't like it. And he also went on saying that the reason why the Emir's mouth are covered is because the way God created us, the tongue is covered by the teeth, and the teeth is also sealed by the lips. And then they also have an extra layer But he said that Sanusi Lamido Sanusi broke all the walls, so in the manner of speaking, and then he wasn't satisfied. So if we have traditional rulers, are we saying that they shouldn't be able, because whatever the constitutional authority does at the end of the day affects the people who are members of his own, kingdom. So are we saying that traditional rulers should not meddle in the affairs of politics, or should not even give their own opinion that would help at the end of the day, that will help in the long run, their own...
As the father of all,
including the governor?
Just a moment. As the father of all, because that's how they are seen. In short, growing up in Delta State, the part of Delta State where I come from was largely controlled by the Oba of Benin, long before the creation of states and all that. You seldomly hear or see him. It's only during festivals or whatever that he comes out on designated days. That is the awesomeness, the grace of that institution. As the father of all, he's expected to be extremely circumspect, conservative, enough men to accommodate the diversity.
Father of all in this regard means the traditional ruler.
Yes, father of all, that's what I'm saying. But you do not send a man to Harvard University, to the Lincoln Inn, the best of ivory towers, and expect him to be taciturn. The essence of that was to pursue some measure of liberation. Liberation that will result in expressions and giving concrete effect to your convictions out of that education. That is the reality of the time. A Sanusi, Lamido Sanusi, will be completely underutilized if he's expected to actually shut up where he knows he can speak and has ideas on what to say. Therefore, the crisis was striking a balance between that vocal, intelligent, progressive, and if you like, radical traditional ruler, and the intolerance. Intolerance. We are not in a feudal state. We no longer operate in a feudal state. We now operate within a democratic setting, ideally.
Yeah.
And one of the thresholds of democracy, talk, that is freedom of expression.
Including whether you're a traditional ruler or
not. The traditional ruler, the last time I checked, is not included under section 308 of the Constitution. That is the section that grants immunity to certain political office holders: president, vice president, governor, deputy governor. And therefore, if a traditional ruler steps beyond his bounds, either by way of defaming you or even committing any crime against it, he is immediately made to face the law because he does not enjoy any immunity.
Yeah.
I guess that the point we're making before we round off is that, look, there are very many reasons why we must continue to recognize the traditional institutions in this country. Arguments have been profiled.
It is not that traditional institutions are not recognized. They are recognized.
By recognition,
that is the reason why they are giving certificates of office.
By recognition in this context, I am saying the need not to politicize and thereby undermine what it actually means. The way it is now being treated. I wonder what our children will know about Emir, this tool of the Emir of Kano now, as against what we knew.
One thing I'm still struggling to understand is, okay, if we don't want to politicize this, if we mustn't politicize the traditional institution, are they supposed to stand aloof of what is happening politically within the society, because they are part of the political.
The politicization I talk about is the degree of influence, the flippant degree of influence that a state actor can have over traditional institutions. I'm
but
talking
the court
about
can act on them if they, do anything that is against the law.
Of course, but let's face what is happening with the executive first.
Okay.
It is that the executive have found a particular traditional ruler too vocal, and he said, no, I cannot tolerate this. How do we have two captains in one ship? The way to go about it is to recognize this. It appears he is so powerful, and he is almost equating himself with the state. Therefore, decimate this institution, this emirate known as the Kano Emirate, gets as many emirs positioned around there, and whittle down the powers of this man. Perhaps that will teach him a lesson. In short, he's not supposed to be there any longer. Banish him, take him to anywhere. That is the manipulation I talk about. That is the recognition I talk about is the recognition that rather fortifies that position. The need for that is enormous. One, you can have a better security in our country if these traditional institutions are carefully integrated without the letters and seminars and whatever. There are informal ways by which you can get to the root of what that's actually what is known as community policing.
We also have traditional rulers who have been fingered in fueling insecurity.
So we're looking at the bright side of this. It doesn't presuppose that there are no cases of
those who are parents' behaviors,
malfeasance, and so on and so forth. Think about what would come to the value system, our cherished value systems of the past, if traditional institutions are empowered to go in the sensitization lines along the culture and custom and traditions that we subscribe to. Think about the creativity and the depth of imagination that could come the way of our children if they are made to understand their essence, their being, by, following up on, go to the Benin Kingdom and see the depth of culture.
But do you feel this has been affected?
So where a state actor who is elected, perhaps, and in most cases, may not be the mandate of the people, and needed to ride the rough shot and ensure that there are no other centers of power for the purpose of power, decides to begin to tamper with institutions that have run centuries of years before he came on board. That is what I think should be stopped. And the way to do it is to recognize that there is also, just as we are talking about state capture, there is also issue about the capture of the tradition.
Exactly.
And what does that show? There's no certainty any longer. I mean, how do you wake up in a country, African setting, and say, oh, by next month, that's the election, we're sure that he will go? There's no certainty around there again. He will be battling for his life, for his survival, and completely removes from his thinking issues that we deepen the reason why he is a traditional.
So do you think is it not just one leg of it that we are looking at, what's the practice that eroded our traditional values and institutions? What about the place of faith, where a lot of people argue that the importation, the adoption or adaptation into foreign religions has also affected the way we respect our traditional institutions? Because we have a lot of people who don't believe in traditional rights any longer because of their faith. They say that it's at variance with their own faith. So if we still have this in place, or if we have this growing in leaps and bounds, how do you feel this will, give that space or that place that we are asking for the traditional institution to be in place?
That's if we go into this,
But it's the reality.
no. I'm just trying to underscore your own imagination traveling on that line. And you see, it's been a long contest. If you don't mind, I will even say religion, not religion and governance. Faith will be a smaller aspect of religion. I thank you for bringing out that. The debate will be much more than what this program can accommodate. But the simple point I like to make is to say the beauty of the traditional institution is anchored on the practices and custom of the people. By the time you take away that, you have as well taken the shine of the sail. For which reason we needed as a state, as a people, to be sensitive to what makes them thick. They are thick not for self-aggrandizement, but for the safety and survival of our society at those municipal levels. And make no mistake about it, it is what happens in those areas that ultimately graduates to what the society becomes. It is therefore in the enlightened interest of the state to guarantee some measure of stability around that. Look, the traditional ruler alone can determine, without a computer, without any modern means of aggregating data, but can determine the influx or the entrance of a foreigner within his domain. This can happen in less than 24 hours. If you arm the Inspector General of Police with the best of technology, even if they succeed, they may not succeed within that 24 hours. That is the sense in which we make this point, that whereas we have seen quite a number of them commit abominable transgressions and malfeasance, including some of them who were recently convicted for rape in some communities. These are public knowledge. But by and large, in the final analysis, we stand to gain, and I have tried to articulate some of this. Our value systems have completely collapsed because we no longer look in that direction. The faith you talk about, it has been a serious context as to which should be the way. Have we become a lesser people in terms of essence, in terms of being and potentials, because we abandoned who we are and unable to fully understand the one we have embraced religiously?
So there was a way we could have, made them work together, streamline them to operate together. But, talking about entrenching these values in our traditional institutions, we've talked about governance at a grassroots level and the need to create more governing councils to address blind spots in society. That's why some people came out saying that, no, the balkanization of the Kano Emirate was the best thing that had ever happened to Kano State, because it allowed them to feel the dividends of governance. It allowed them to enjoy traditional values and rights and all of that. For instance, a double exercise, ceremonies and all of that. So they believe that that was the best thing that have happened to the Kano people. So do you not feel that that was a good thing?
So you create local governments. In short, those who were very creative came with the idea of local development centers, LCDs.
Yeah, LCDs.
And they turn around and find the superstructure, which is the state, promoting the composition of caretaker committees. It is challenged, succeeded or not succeeded. At the end of the day, funds meant for the development you are talking about is also hijacked.
Yeah.
So the point I make is that don't mix the point. Let us not be distracted. The real thing happening is politics, politicization of those centers. The idea is creative, but what has not happened is the motive. The right motive is the one that is suspect. So, whereas you could present that as the main reason why you are doing this, the motive is the one that the political actors are concentrating on. And I have made the point that, oh, you talk of Emirates. So tell me, between the time those Emirates were created in 2019 and now, what is the development that been attracted by reason of that organization?
That's right.
In short, in some states, as they are being created, they are deliberately starved of what they need to operate maximally.
We have less than 2 minutes to round off. So without running the risk of sounding the modest, I would like to just chip in this question. If you look at the seat and the throne, or let's say the person, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi II, as well as Ado Bayero, they appear to be the pawns, and you used the word earlier, they appear to be the pawns in the chess game of politics. What impact do you think this is going to have on their personalities, whoever wins this at the end of the day? What kind of authority or toga do you think they would wield as the head of the Emirate?
I had wondered, perhaps I did that aloud, because my wife in particular, I confronted her on this. I didn't know why His Eminence Sanusi, maybe he feels he owes his people a historical obligation. But I don't know why he wants to go back there, personally. Look, in the first place, I believed that such a person and at his level, with the much or little I know about him, was going to be completely underutilized. When he's captured in that, the tradition, the real tradition. In fact, he has been described to be one. It's just like what we say about whoever appears as a lawyer watching the brief of a nominal complainant. You are merely to be seen and not heard. In short, he has been told that the reason he dresses the way he dresses is to seal up. It's to seal up. So, how will a Sanusi, how will he operate? I mean, we are different. We are not all cast in the same mold. I'm a twin. If my twin brother is here in the last 1 hour, you probably will not hear a word from him. Yet he is much more resourceful upstairs. But you can't keep me, I'm a restless person. So I don't know what, and he's the other side of Ado Bayero, who is largely reticent, withdrawn, but with deep consciousness of who he is and the seat he occupies and how to manage that.
Food for thought. A lot of things that have been said.
So they will all come out victims, and perhaps the future generation will know how to.
We'll see what happens. Either way, there is still judgments to be delivered at the end of the day.
Yeah, that is on the law side.
Yes, wherever this goes, we'll definitely come back here and talk about it. Malaki Ugomadu, constitutional lawyer. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much.
A pleasure, sir.
Insight.
A pleasure.
And thank you too for your company. We really appreciate. At the top of the hour, we'll be having the midday news. I'm Ibrahim Sheet. I'll see you again next week. Bye for now.